Welcome to the Animal Agenda. I'm Tom Kiesche, and today we have Katie Cleary with us. She's the founder of Peace for Animals and founder and editor-in-chief of World Animal News, a documentary filmmaker who produced and created Give Me Shelter 2015. It's about 92 minutes. And produced and directed Why on Earth 2022, and that's about 73 minutes. Initially, she's from the North Shore of Chicago. She's an only child. She was raised by her mother. She's an actress, a model, an animal advocate. Her first break into entertainment came from the hit TV show America's Top Model, season 1, while she was in college. But today, while we may touch on all sorts of things, we're talking about wolves, stars of an upcoming documentary, Protectors of the Wild, which I believe focuses on the plight of wolves in Yellowstone and throughout the United States. Actually, let's get those pesky disclaimers out of the way. I have not seen Protectors of the Wild yet. I'm speaking and asking questions as an individual in my own individual capacity. I first met Katie at an animal shelter in Los Angeles while I was volunteering. She was with two other lovely individuals, and they were there to meet a few shelter dogs, and none of them were afraid to get a little dirty. Hello, Katie Cleary.
Hello, how are you doing?
So anything that I said in that intro that needs to be twerked, tweaked, or clarified in any way?
Not at all. No, that was actually perfect.
Oh my goodness, I did something well. So jumping in, gray wolves used to roam most of North America before the early 1900s. So what happened?
Well, sadly, they were killed off in the late 1800s, early 1900s due to cattle ranching and the fact that these ranchers thought they were going to kill all their cattle. It's less than 1% of cattle are taken by wolves. So, the facts are in the animal welfare advocates' favor. And I think that these cattle ranchers wanted an excuse. And of course, the fur trade at that time was booming. So it was the cattle ranchers. It was, trophies, the fur trade.
Cattle ranchers, trophy, and fur trade.
Mm-hmm.
So those of you at home listening, you can't see the cat that just jumped up. So tell us the name of the cat that we just saw on the Zoom.
Oh, that's one of 8. So
I've got 8 cats. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's Savannah.
That's
Savannah.
Who? Savannah?
Savannah. Yeah, I found her in a box along with her 3 siblings and bottle fed her. So she's about, 9 years old now.
Well, let's just pause for a second and just go into that. Tell me what you do in the rescue world.
Well, you know what? I do rescue animals still, but I used to rescue a lot when I first started Peace for Animals. And because I'm maxed out right now, we have a lot of fosters that have been helping us. So my passion has always been cats. I was raised with cats. I would bottle feed kittens with my mom and then find them homes. We would do a lot of wildlife rehab as well back in Chicago. So if it was a squirrel that had fallen out of a nest or baby birds, we would bottle feed them and then re-release them back into the wild. So and we would also bring them to a local vet that we were friends with that would help us. So, wildlife, kittens, dogs, you name it, we would rescue everything. It was around when I was like 11, 12 years old in Chicago.
And would you say that was sort of your entrance into where you are now?
I would say so. Yeah. My mom's passion was big cats. So she bought me this big cat book and I memorized the whole thing. And I thought, wow, one day I'm going to work in conservation. I'm going to start my own organization. And that was at a very young age. And I watched, the Humane Society of the United States Awards was on, I think it was on Animal Planet or one of those networks at that time. And I thought, you know what, one day I'm going to be there. And when I was on Deal or No Deal, this was a while ago, one of the girls from the show was hosting the Humane Society of the United States Awards, and she said, "I'm sick. I can't host this one. Could you take over? I know you're a big animal lover." And I took over, and then the rest was history. And I helped them for years after that with the award show. So it was interesting. Like I knew at such a young age that I had a mission for animals, specifically endangered species.
Was your mom involved in any way or just?
Yeah, absolutely. It's her passion was cats. So, so it was all about rescuing cats and kittens and finding them homes and of course big cats as well. So she rescues, she traps, neuters and releases as well in Chicago.
Okay. Back to the movie. After nearly 100 years of extinction from Yellowstone by humans, reintroduction began in 1995 with 31 gray wolves. How does your upcoming film differ from previous films or video released about the same topic?
Well, honestly, I haven't seen too many films focused on wolves, very few. So this is going to be taking a little bit more of activist approach. So a lot of people don't want to upset the hunters and the meat and dairy industry and the cattle ranchers, but we need to tell the truth. And so when we were up in Yellowstone filming, we were at the Capitol, and there was about 40 hunters to like 100 animal activists. And they really didn't like the fact that we were up there, especially with camera crews. And there was actually another camera crew filming another wolf documentary at the same time. So they were really, really kind of upset that we were there. And there was a little scuffle that happened. And one of the hunters ended up pushing this elderly animal activist in front of me. And I got really upset. It's the Italian Irish in me. And I stepped up to the hunter, and he was packing. At that time, all the hunters were packing. And of course, I didn't have anything. And so I felt a little, alone in that sense. I mean, there was a bunch of activists around me, but then my friend stepped in between myself and the hunter and said, you know what, you need to back down. You shouldn't be getting in her face. And we caught all this on camera. So, it was interesting. I mean, they really, they can be very aggressive, and, there's no reason for any of this. There's no reason that, all of us can't see eye to eye and protect these animals for future generations. I mean, my God, there's only 5,000 gray wolves left in the continuing United States, the rest being in Alaska. There's about 11 to 12,000 in Alaska.
First off, let me say you are packing plenty. That's who you are. And I understand the tension between them. But maybe what the listeners don't understand is that while wolves are an endangered species in the United States, they aren't everywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. So the United States, I mean, we've done tremendous injustice, basically almost killing them off, like you said, in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And so the fact that they've even come back to 5,000 is a miracle, and I have tremendous faith in God and Jesus, and that has brought me to where I am today, because of my mission for these animals, and like I said, specifically endangered species. So I thought, we have to do a third documentary. The first two documentaries we did, we focused on all those issues with, the ivory trade, the rhino horn trade, wildlife trafficking, adopting, not shopping, the fur trade. We covered everything, cosmetics testing on animals. And I thought, this third documentary has to be about one species. So I picked wolves because they're the most vilified, and we need to change the narrative around them.
So much what you just said I wanted to get into, and that is, Get Me Shelter was basically black backgrounds or white backgrounds, some low-res, grainy footage, people talking on camera. I thought you upped your game with Why on Earth with glossier, more large-scale. You were traveling more, bigger animals, it seemed, Mustangs, orangutans, sharks, elephants, rhinos, all sorts of things. So that was one of my questions with this new movie. Are you focusing on one animal? And I'm so glad you hit that already. So are you also focusing on things like the trophic cascades or the engineers of the ecosystems, things that have been touched on in other videos?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that the reintroduction into Yellowstone was critical. It changed the whole ecosystem of Yellowstone. It changed the erosion of the river. Species started coming back. Native plant species that weren't there started coming back. So really, all of these animals are connected. Once you take one out of the ecosystem, it really imbalances everything. So, and eventually it'll come back to us. So if wolves are taken out again, or even look at Africa, lions are almost endangered. I mean, I think they're endangered. There are hardly any left. It's heartbreaking. At one point, there were millions of lions. Now there's less than 25,000 lions in the whole of Africa. So once one of those apex predators, let alone keystone species like an elephant or rhino, is taken out, it affects the whole of the ecosystem. They're supposed to be there. There's a reason why they're there. God put them there for a reason. So it is our job in this critical time that we've been put here on this earth to be a voice for these animals that do not have one. Otherwise, we're going to lose them, and then we're going to be the last to be gone, because humans are going to be the last to be affected.
This is the Animal Agenda on KPFK. I'm Tom Kiesche, and today we're chatting with Katie Cleary. We're talking about a new movie she's putting together, and we're talking about wolves. So let's break it down a little bit more. with regard to wolves being the apex predator in the ecosystem of Yellowstone. Can you talk about how they influence elk and how that influences the environment?
Well, specifically with the elk, you know what? They kill off the sick. So if there's an animal that's diseased, if there's an animal that's injured, if there's an animal that, is going to spread a virus, they're going to take those animals out. And so, and it's interesting, those diseases and those animals that are sick, they don't affect the wolves who eat them. So they're the cleaners of our ecosystem, and specifically Yellowstone. And the fact that these hunters are luring them out with dead carcasses out of the protection of the national park and then killing them, that should be illegal in itself, but they're not being prosecuted. So that's another issue.
Isn't that happening in Africa as well?
Yeah, it is. It happened in Zimbabwe, Hwange National Park. I believe it was Cecil Lion that was lured out by the dentist and whoever led him in that trophy hunt. I don't recall his name, but you guys know. I'm sure you heard of the issue with in the story about Cecil. Lured out, and he was, I believe he was either a bow and arrow or shot multiple times, and then they cut off his paws and his head. And no animal should ever go through that. And the fact that somebody could do that, there's a serious health issue going on, and that needs to be addressed. And they need to get serious help for that.
And we're talking about someone killing another creature simply for trophy.
A trophy. That's sickening. It needs to be illegal worldwide.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So your third movie, I feel like you learned and you advanced from your first movie to your second movie. So I'm curious, did you learn anything in your first and second movie that you put into your third movie?
Well, it's interesting because the first movie, I didn't have funding, and everyone thought, you're crazy. Don't use your savings. Don't do it. And I said, I'm going to. And I was married at the time, and my husband goes, I don't know why you're doing this. He goes, why are you using your own money? And I said, because no one else is gonna help me. No one else stepped up. So I used residuals from a commercial I did, and that ran for about 7 years. And I used those residuals to produce Give Me Shelter, and then sold it to Netflix in 2015. And again, people were like, oh, there's no way you're going to be able to sell it to Netflix. That's going to be difficult. And I said, well, if you know me, you'll know that I'll get it on Netflix. So, a month after he passed, Netflix called, and they bought the film.
You brought up your husband, so I just want to say I'm sorry of your husband's passing.
Thank you.
And you also brought up around the cross around your neck.
Yes.
Which is, again, I mentioned that in the intro. How does that play into becoming or being an advocate?
I really think, it comes down to when I was a child, just knowing that I had this mission, and specifically, I believe it's a mission from God that God has given me to be a voice for these animals. And everyone has their own mission. Some people may know it. Some people will find it eventually. But for me, it was always about animals, and it was almost like the entertainment business is, that was a stepping stone. It wasn't about the modeling, the acting, and all of that. It was about using that platform to raise awareness for something greater that's going to outlive us, So I believe that God gives each of us a mission on this earth. And we're here for such a short period of time. And I think we have a greater purpose, that will outlive us all. And we have to be, it may not be animals for everybody. It might be, raising awareness for cancer research or children or, anti-trafficking or whatever it may be. But I think each person has the ability to use their voice for something greater. And my faith in God has brought me through it.
So I will tell you, I'm an agnostic atheist, but watching your first two movies, I could not help but think of a Bible quote.
Okay.
And it was Matthew 6:24, which I think of often, and that is, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. Man cannot serve both God and money. And I just think of all the evil that happens in this world, or destruction, and really the wolves disappearing in the early 1900s. And like you mentioned, Cecil the tiger, if I'm getting that correct, remembering that correctly, that's just the opposite of good, in my opinion.
It is. It is. And I believe like we can all agree on this, as a believer in Jesus and God and also as an agnostic. I think we both see the evil that's in this world. So we know that this is a fallen world because we see good and evil, right? So it's not heaven or hell. It's a mixture of both. And I believe we're all being tested. So this test is, okay, whether we're going to spread compassion. I think my mission is also compassion. Patience is a big one. Helping others, how we treat others, will have a ripple effect, in history, and leaving this earth better than the way we found it. So I really believe that, we could both agree that we do see it. We see the good and the evil. And I believe that there's a reason why we want to do good. Yes, there's a lot of evil out there, but I believe there's more good people than evil. And there's a reason why we're a voice for the animals. It doesn't just come out of thin air, because everything on this earth points to a creator. That's just my opinion.
So I'm going to leave that one, the creator thing. But Clint Eastwood had a nice quote in your second movie, and that is, mankind is tough on the planet. Mm-hmm. And I think that just fits that right there, that how hard we are on this planet and the animals that are on this planet.
He said that really poignantly. And we take so much and we give so little. And I feel like if we could just do the opposite, if we could take less and give more, we would see a big shift on this planet. I
just saw a Mark Maron joke about how much he does for the environment. And the joke was, I reuse bags. It was a joke.
Well,
but it's perfect. Like, as if that's enough to do.
If that's enough. We could do more than that. We could do more than that.
I think that was his point under the joke. So you have lots of advocates, actors, professionals, legislators that you've rubbed elbows with. And I'm sure you didn't sit down with St. Francis of Assisi, Mahatma Gandhi, or Jacques Cousteau, but who have you met in doing these films or in life that really moved your needle, really made an influence?
Oh boy.
And not just because of celebrity.
Okay. That's a tough one. I would say Jane Goodall. I think Jane Goodall, she's an animal person for sure. She's definitely an animal person. I think she's more of an animal person than a people person. She's very, she's just, being around her is so calming. And it's just like, you could see that she's here for a purpose. She's here for a reason. And she has really set the precedent for future advocates to live up to. I mean, that's going to be a difficult one. We need the next generation to step up and take after her. And I don't know who's going to do it. I hope that we have a team prepared. her and David Attenborough, when they leave this earth, we need to pick it up, and we need to pick it up bigger and better, because we're facing a huge extinction crisis right now, and it's not looking good.
It is not looking good. It's depressing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I know a few other things about you. That you have an awe of nature. You believe in ecotourism, and I believe you're a vegan, correct?
Yeah, I'm plant-based. Yes. So, you know what? I think that's the key. If you could leave animals off your plate, try maybe meatless Mondays. I would suggest doing it, because it would save a lot of lives. I think on average, it's like 24,000 to 36,000 animals, one individual eats in their lifetime. That's a lot of animals on average.
So again, I'll make a confession. I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, but
that's okay.
I will tell you that your meatless Mondays rang in my ear. And although I won't say I'm completely meatless on Mondays, I have cut down on my animal products. But I do want to say I posted a social media post of a hamburger, cheeseburger, and instead of getting like a 3x3 or a 4x4, I got a single patty with a ton of vegetables. And I either got hammered for not completely avoiding meat, or I got hammered by people making fun of, where's the beef? It's just hilarious. This world, no matter what you do, you can't satisfy everyone.
You can't, you know what? We're not here to please others. We're not here to please everybody. Right. Look at Jesus, for instance. He was he tried to, be there for everybody, right? And a lot of people hated him for what he did. He healed people, healed the blind, healed the sick, and people still hated him. So if you think about that, we're not here to please everybody. We're here to be good stewards of this earth while we're here. And then when we leave it better than the way we found it. That's my belief.
You're listening to The Animal Agenda on KPFK. I'm Tom Kiesche, and today we have filmmaker, advocate, Katie Cleary. We're talking about wolves, and we're talking about God and Jesus Christ, and I had no idea it was going to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm loving it already. So let me continue with wolves and the Bible and just ask you, do you know the story of St. Francis of Assisi and the wolf of Gubbio?
I know St. Francis, but I do not know the story of the wolf. You're going to have to tell me.
Well, all right. It's not that interesting in my opinion, but it's a fable where apparently St. Francis of Assisi went to a town that was terrified of a wolf, a man-eater, terrified the livestock and the people. And apparently, if you believe in the stories of saints, he went to the town and he seeked the wolf, and all his apostles ran away except one for a while. And then that tough guy, I guess, ran away and left St. Francis alone with the wolf. And apparently the wolf charged and sneered. And then St. Francis, in his holy ways, communicated the wolf, and the wolf communicated back. And the wolf said that the only reason that he was attacking mankind was that he was afraid and hungry, and that people were attacking him, so he felt he had to attack them. And then they made a vow, sort of, or an agreement where the wolf put his paw in St. Francis's hand. And then apparently, according to the story, and I'm no scholar or biblical person, he walked with St. Francis back to the town, to all the town people, and they all decided that they would live happily ever after together, to sum it up. And the people started feeding the wolf, and the wolf was fine with the people. There is one funny thing I found in this story. Well, a lot of funny things for me, a non-believer, but the one funny thing I found was apparently there's a church in Gubbio, and there's a story that they found wolf bones under the old church before they built a new church.
Wow.
I don't know what's true and what's not true, but as someone who does believe, I'm putting that on you to find out. And maybe that's a good story for your documentary.
I really like that, actually. And I actually have a little statue of St. Francis of Assisi, and I think he actually may have a wolf with him. I'll have to get that. But yeah, no, I mean, the patron saint of animals. I believe it. I believe it. And all wolves, all dogs come from wolves, right?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Many years ago.
It's hard to imagine a Frenchie and a wolf being the same thing, but that's what they say.
I know. It's incredible. I mean, even cats too. I know dogs were domesticated before cats, but some brave soul, made that connection with the wolf a long time ago. And look, we've got Huskies and German Shepherds and Frenchies. I mean, it's incredible how that works. But I think we have to respect all of God's creatures and be their voice for the voiceless, and that's why we're here, right?
If you took the word God out of that, I would agree 100%. I believe that I'm a meat eater, but I don't believe in disrespecting animals. And we're not going to get to it in the KPFK interview, but hopefully you'll stick around and we can do it in the extended interview. But when I hear that story in Daniel, Wyoming, with the snowmobile, and again, we're not going to have time to hit on that in the KPFK thing, but all I can think of is that person not only doesn't respect animals, but that person doesn't respect themselves. And that's just my feeling. No,
I think you're right. And I think that the whole world was watching when that happened and was outraged, just like Cecil the lion. But it's interesting. I feel like one sometimes gets sacrificed for the many. So in order for wolves to be on everyone's minds and for their protection to be and the outrage and all of that to be on everyone's minds, it was almost like this poor wolf was sacrificed for its species, just like Cecil the lion and what happened with that in Hawaii National Park with the dentist. it's horrific. These people need to be held accountable. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And, gosh, I wish it was an eye for an eye, but I mean, we need to have stronger, legislation passed in the United States and worldwide. So goes the United States, so goes the rest of the world, right? So, and sometimes they say so goes California, so goes the rest of the world, because everything starts here. That's truly what I believe. So if we are stronger with our legislation and our bills in the United States, I feel like the world will then follow suit. We have to set an example here, and we can't let these people leave with a slap on the wrist for doing something like that to a sentient being that deserves our respect. It makes me sick.
It is nauseating to the majority of people on this planet. I mean, for me, it was about the camera and the fanfare, and to be some sort of local hero.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It just shows how backwards our world is, I believe that there's a serious battle going on right now. And I know that you're agnostic and, I'm a believer, but still, it's plain as day. It's a spiritual battle between good and evil. And you see it all the time, not just with animals, but with people, with children, with everything happening in our political climate as well. It's shocking. So, we have to be good examples for the good.
I'm a believer in that.
Yeah.
So tell me about the film and filming wolves, and how close, what kind of equipment did you use, and what kind of crew did you have?
Sure. So this film, Protectors of the Wild, I don't have funding for. So I'm doing this little by little. This is the first film. Well, the first one I used my savings for. The second one with Clint, I raised money for. And this one, I haven't been able to raise any funds for. So we are doing this on a very low budget with a small crew. But I've got some great cinematographers attached. Ollie Pemberton, who shot on a red camera. It's beautiful drone footage as well of wolves in Vancouver Island, of sea wolves. So we're touching on the sea wolves in Canada as well, and just focusing all wolves on North America. So next stop is probably going to be Alaska. We have to raise the funds to get there.
I've been there twice, both for acting jobs, and it's beautiful. Although
Amazing.
I will tell you the difference between the 15 years that I was there, I could see glaciers, the effect of our world on the glaciers. It was really sad.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I know. It's happening all across the world. It just, how are we going to stop it? With this many people on the planet doing this much damage, and people don't, doing this much damage, and people don't think that it's us that's causing it. I find that hard to believe. I know that there's natural climate change as well, but I feel like we're definitely influencing our climate right now.
I don't think how anybody could deny it, and I am flabbergasted that anyone would try to deny it.
A lot of people that do.
Yeah, 100%. So one thing I get kind of geeked out on is dog behavior because of the volunteer work I did. Did you get to see wolves exhibiting behavior that we see in our everyday domestic dogs?
You know what? No, they're very wild. I mean, the ones in Vancouver Island, we're sitting there for maybe 3 to 4 hours just waiting for a wolf to come. It was like we started at maybe 4 p.m. and we just sat there, waited behind a log. And all of a sudden one just started trotting down, the sand, right on the water there. And it was just incredible. And I just, he didn't see us right away, and then picked up our scent. And you could tell right when he picked up our scent, I had it all on video, kind of looked over and then put his head down like, I see you, let's not have a confrontation. I'm just going to keep moving on, and put his head down and then just trotted off. And then we got the drone footage of him, kind of in this beautiful, not kelp forest, I would say, little tide pools. And he was running in the tide pools, and there was a beautiful sunset behind him. And I was like, God, this is going to be the beginning of the film. We already got the beginning.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Yeah, without giving it away, unless we get a better shot, but that's going to be our shot.
It's about wolves. We just gave it away.
About wolves.
The behavior I was sort of hinting or queuing up was the scent rolling that they do, the digging of dens, the wanderlust, and the scraping behavior. which before I went into the research for this interview, I never really went into the depth of that research. So I was just wondering if you saw any of that in the wild.
You know what? No. I mean, the only thing that we saw, I would say, we saw a female with her 5 pups, very protective. We didn't see any of the dens, although, no active dens. So there were some dens that were abandoned that my cinematographer was able to capture. We saw, some trails of fur. We saw their paw prints on the beach. So basically all we saw was really just they don't want to have a confrontation with us because that would exude too much energy and the risk of them losing, right? So of course, they do risk assessment as well, these apex predators, because of the amount of energy it would take to fight a bigger species like humans. They don't want a confrontation with us. They want to, feed their families. They want to, go about their way. They need to survive. That's basically what it comes down to: eating, sleeping, and surviving, and taking care of their families.
That sounds like a human trait.
It is very much so. A lot to learn from all animals, I think.
Another thing that I learned in this researching, and I'm glad we're talking about it on the extended thing because it's about me a little bit, quite honestly. But a number of years ago, when I used to hike a lot, I was driving up the 2 freeway up in the mountains, about an hour and 20 minutes from here. And I swear I saw a wolf that bolted out of the woods, ran straight towards my car as I was driving about 45 miles an hour, ran towards my driver's door, and then veered 90 degrees and started running alongside my car for about 100 yards. And I slowly slowed down because I didn't want him to hurt himself, and I didn't want to brake and startle him or anything, but I slowly down. And when I got down to about 27, he made another sharp turn back left and into the woods. So I told a few people this, and one of those people was an environmentalist who said, that couldn't happen. There's no wolves in Southern California. There haven't been wolves in Southern California for like 100 years or whatever. You're shaking your head because you know. So in this research, I found out that not only was he wrong, but there was a wolf named OR7 that crossed into California in 2011. And there was a wolf that died, hit by a car, an hour and 10 minutes north of Los Angeles. So I could have very well seen a wolf. And I've seen so many huskies and shepherds. And this was not a husky, and it was not a shepherd. This was a massive, massive gray wolf that was running about 40 miles an hour. It was the most impressive animal thing I've ever seen. Wow. So I don't believe in God. I don't believe in a lot of things, but I feel like researching for this interview has validated an experience I had in my life, and it made me so happy.
There you go. There are wolves here, and they're coming in from Oregon. And I think they're a little bit outside of Los Angeles. I'm not gonna confirm or deny, but from people that have witnessed them, they've seen packs. I believe that the person that you talked to was not right.
They were incorrect, but they were.
I believe you. I believe you saw a wolf 100%. And you're a dog expert, right? So you work with so many dogs, so you know that it's not a dog. I mean, this doesn't look like a husky. I mean, wolves they're massive. Massive
creatures.
Massive. Yeah.
Actually, KTLA News just the other day said that 5 of California's 7 known gray wolf packs have had pups this year. And that brings the total of the state to over 62.
Amazing. See?
It is amazing. They are so resilient.
They are so resilient, and we have to protect them at all costs because there's not many left. I mean, 5,000 isn't going to cut it. That's not going to do. I mean, the fact that they've even survived used to be millions.
Yeah.
Down to 1,000. We've done that much damage, and there's supposed to be grizzlies here too. Killed off the grizzlies. There's black bears. They took over.
There was something you posted on your channel. Excuse me, I always get it wrong. WAN, World Animal Network?
Well, World Animal News, yeah.
World Animal News. And it talked about dogs and dogs. wolves in Colorado that had been put there to reestablish the species actually had to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that just briefly?
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate. So we were at a legislative meeting. We filmed some of the documentary there. This was, let's see, last year, the year before that. We've been filming for a couple of years now. So I think it was the year before last. We were in Colorado, and we're fighting for the reintroduction into Colorado because, again, they were killed off by ranchers and hunters in the 1900s. They're supposed to be there, just like they're supposed to be in almost every state, right, in the U.S. So all the ranchers were really up in arms and very upset, and but the conservationists won, and they reintroduced them wolves into Colorado at the end of last year. And now the cattle ranchers are complaining, and they're being very aggressive and saying that they need to move the wolves. The wolves have not attacked their livestock, and if they did, it would be less than 1% of livestock taken, killed. And they get compensated for each cow or each animal that is killed by a wolf. They purposely left carcasses out, so the wolves would then go on their property, and they would give them an excuse to say, "Look, they're coming on our property. You got to move them now." So the officials have given in, and they're moving this beautiful wolf pack that just had pups. And we don't know where they're moving them to, but they were just reintroduced, and they're thriving in Colorado where they should be. And so again, it's the cattle ranchers and the meat and dairy industry. Again, I mean, the cattle on grazing cattle on public lands, A, should be illegal, and B, it's totally destroying ecosystems. Cattle on public lands destroys everything. I hate to say it, but it does. I love cows, but not for meat, not for dairy. No. So, we got to the key is to eat less meat and not consume dairy. I think that's what it is.
Again, back to the Yellowstone experiment that started in the 90s and how that whole environmental boom has happened because of the reintroduction of wolves, how they've changed the pattern of the elk eating, how they've literally brought back species of plants that were suffering, how beavers are now doing much better and creating ecosystems from their dams. There's plenty of elk apparently in Colorado that probably also need to be culled by wolves and the whole environment put in check. And it just goes, again, I'm not a Bible person, I'm not a God person, but that Matthew 6:24, God and money, it just comes back to that over and over and over for me.
It's true. It's true. I'm going to send you a Bible.
No, you don't have to. I'm from a very Catholic family. I've had Bibles. I don't need a Bible, but I'll discuss anything in life. So okay. I appreciate that, though.
Give it a chance. Maybe some miracles happen. I've seen a lot of miracles, I'll tell you, and you can't explain it. I have.
I've seen a lot of really good things myself.
See, there you go. You can't disprove the infinite, right? So we'll all find out.
We will find out. Here, let's close with this. This is, and I've said this on the show before.
Sure.
The only thing I've ever heard of heaven that I really was like, I'll sign up for that. Mm-hmm. That sounds amazing. Is I dated a woman who is a chaplain, and she told me that when you die, all the animals that you loved and loved you rush to greet you. And I thought, out of everything I've ever heard of God, Jesus, the afterlife, Muhammad, whatever religion, that's the one thing I'm like, I'd sign up for that. Sign
me up. Yeah. And all loved ones as well.
I'd be mobbed with dogs, so I would love that. Katie,
well, God bless everybody.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and chatting to them.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, and keep up the amazing work. You are a force to be reckoned with rescuing animals, and all you do volunteering for the dogs. It does not go unnoticed. So just want to let you know.
We're all part of the same team, in my opinion.
We are.
For our KPFK audience, my name is Tom Kiesche, and you've been listening to The Animal Agenda on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, or streaming online every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Our guest this week has been the delightfully talented, wonderful Katie Cleary. Thank you so much, Katie Cleary. Special thanks to producer Marlena Bond. If you have questions, suggestions, or want to know more, write comments at kpfk.org or the Animal Agenda's Facebook page. You can listen on past episodes in kpfk.org/archives for 59 days after the airing, or find them and extended interviews on SoundCloud. Katie, we need to put this in there. How can people get in contact with you and learn more about you and your organizations and projects?
All right. So please find out more information at peace4animals.net. And you can follow us on social media on all platforms. And World Animal News. Follow World Animal News on all platforms and worldanimalnews.com every day for breaking news and animal welfare.
Thank you so much, Katie Cleary.
Thank you so much for having me.